Yeah, I'm not really sure how to start this video off. I mean, there's always the bear jokes. I could reference either Saturday Night Live, Charlton Heston from Alaska, steal more material from the Nostalgia Critic. I mean, I just don't know what to say. It's a documentary about bears. What can I really say about it? And if you've been watching my show for a while, like since the beginning, you recall I did review the previous DisneyNature documentary, Chimpanzee, and didn't really give it a very favorable review. So, yeah. One thing that I can say about Disney's bears in comparison to Chimpanzee is that at least it's, well, better than Chimpanzee and actually kind of addressed some of the problems Chimpanzee had with its, well, presentation. I mean, one thing is that the story is a lot more clear. With Chimpanzee, once the orphan chimpanzee is taken in by the alpha male, the story just kind of grinds to a halt. Whereas here, you've got a clear protagonist, you've got a clear goal, and you've got clear stakes. And so that's one thing that I definitely like with this film over Chimpanzee, is that its story has a very clear beginning, middle, and end, and it's just overall easy to follow. Another thing I also liked is that the voiceover was a lot better. I mean, I've got nothing against Tim Allen as a comedian, and it was just more of a case of, given that John C. Reilly's narration in this film brought the comedy kind of at the very beginning, I was a little more prepared for it. Whereas with Tim Allen's narration in Chimpanzee, the comedy kind of came about in weird spurts that felt out of place, whereas with John C. Reilly's narration of bears, it actually felt natural, really, and it wasn't even just like obvious references to stuff they've done. It was just a case of, hey, I'm just gonna narrate kind of what these animals are doing, and I don't know, it just felt a little more natural with John C. Reilly's narration of bears. That's one thing that I also liked that was kind of an improvement over Chimpanzee. Another thing that I also liked is that the names they gave the animals and the ones that were clearly supposed to be dangerous weren't as, well, subtle as Chimpanzee. I mean, there's no like, oh, this is the evil bear sort of names. I mean, yeah, they proved they were dangerous, but at least the names they gave them are at least more palatable. They weren't as stupid. Now, the only major problem I really had is some of the subplots they tried to kind of have during the documentary with like the Chinook, who was kind of like the rival to the alpha bear, which was named Magnus, and kind of that little thing, as well as kind of following the wolf that was kind of tracking the cubs for part of the journey. The subplot stuff was kind of but that kind of goes into more of an underlying problem that I see with DisneyNature documentaries in general. They try to get so focused on the story that they don't really do a good job of being all that informative. I have the feeling that DisneyNature needs to kind of really more find its own identity, kind of decide if it wants to be more of an informative documentary brand, or just kind of, well, tantamount homeward bound dub over animal footage. Which, again, wouldn't have been a problem if they actually did the whole thing of dubbing over the animal voices. It's just, that's all I can really say. Other than that, it's shot really well, and at least had some entertaining moments, and so it was an enjoyable film to watch, but it was kind of boring. So that's all I really have to say about it, is that it at least improved the voiceover and story problems that Chimpanzee had, with a better narration, better names for the various characters in the story, and just an overall upfront nature of the fact of, okay, well, there's going to be some comedic voiceover, and instead of kind of holding off on it with some one-off jokes later down the line, they just kind of go straight up open with it, like saying, hey, this is how he's going to narrate the documentary, thus you're a little more prepared for it. If you're a fan of nature documentaries, you'll probably enjoy this, but if you're looking for a documentary to actually teach you about bears, there's probably better ones on the market, or just better ones you can find on Netflix. And if you're trying to find something that's more kid-friendly to learn about animals, just watch PBS. I mean, Wild Kratts does a pretty good job of teaching about animals, and so really, it's an okay film, but not really worth seeing in theaters, or really worth it in general, because it's just one of the many multitudes of documentaries about bears that are already there, and there's just some better documentaries about the animal out there on the market already, that there's not really much point in seeing this one. It's not even worth seeing in like a huge like IMAX sort of theater thing, because there wasn't really anything IMAX worthy. Now, I mention this because IMAX was initially started as a format for documentaries, but with this film, it's just kind of there. That's all I can really say about that. That said, I give Disney's Bears a 3.5 out of 5. So that's it for this extra episode of Romney's Reviews. Tune in Wednesday for my review of Heaven is for Real. See you then.